Oh, hi there, and welcome to episode 3. Yeah, so I showed you where I got up to with clearing some of the stuff up to last week. Unfortunately, I haven't managed to quite get round to clearing off this yet. The weather seems to have decided to become wet again, so we had some lovely dry days, so I thought one day this week that'll be it, I can get out and get all this done. Not really gone that way, so I've done some other bits. We'll have a look. And yeah, what I showed you, Misha, there was I originally came up here, and I've been thinking about the best way to put the beds, what to do with the garden. Knowing from what I've seen with the soil down there, I didn't expect it to be any different anywhere else. So I did start thinking about like a no dig method or minimal dig or something like that, which is something different to me. I'm not used to it. However, from what I've just found here, after like I say, I've just brought all this, you know, you can see here it's probably about 2.5 feet high maybe. Oh, sorry, I do apologise. Yep, so what we have here is maybe 2.5 foot and a good pile of this is all my bamboo chippings that I've rotted down. But what I've found underneath that is some absolutely lovely soil. More worms than I've seen since I've been here. Big worms, lots of ground. The ground actually, it even smells like good earth. So yeah, so that's making me think, well, if just dumping a load of chippings on the top of a piece of soil can turn it into this in a couple of years, then what can I do with a bit of concerted effort everywhere else? So yes, I think I'm going to be having a really good look into that. So yeah, so that's what I've just done up here. As I say, I've just been collecting things together, so I've got some nice little pile of bricks which will come in very handy when I start doing my beds. I've been doing a little bit of measuring out to see what would fit and where the best place for the paths would be. And I'm just about any time now I'm going to put out some a blackberry cane and a couple of raspberries and put some frames up. So that's going to be my next job, although actually to do the raspberries I'm probably going to have to move that lot out of the way, at least over here a little bit, so I can actually access that backside where I want to, which has already been cleared. So pigeons. Oh, more a little bit more clearing done there. Not quite got onto the the planting, as I said. I think that's one of the things I found a long time ago with gardening is, you know, you have to do the right things at the right time. You know, you can do lots and lots of things, but if you do the right thing at the wrong time or the wrong thing at the right time, you know, you end up getting nowhere. So like I say, you can't always do what you want. I mean, I'd love now to just be stood here getting rid of burning all this rubbish and getting all the rubble stacked up somewhere so I can get it ready for my borders and whatever, but you know, the weather isn't letting me do that, so I've got other things I need to look at. So, and one of the things I've just realised really after pulling things together is I think I'm going to need to get my compost area sorted pretty quick. There's a lot of stuff could go in to be composted. So obviously the more you can keep in the garden, the less you have to bring in, so it saves money. And I think this is my what to me is my top right hand corner, and this is probably the darkest corner, and whereas everything in the garden would love to be in the best place, you know, you've got to think, well, you know, the compost will survive. You know. So yeah, so it looks like the compost bins are going to go here, so I can actually site them. I'll probably make them out of I don't have any old pallets or any whole wood, but I'll just use fence palings, you know, for the sake of, I mean, they're I think $3 a piece. I thought they were $5 after the last batch, but the planters, I'll show you in a minute where I'm at with those. Actually, they cost me about $15 in half an hour, not 25 like I thought. They're about $3 each for the palings. I can use maybe, you know, $20-30. I'll have a big double yeah, $30. I'll have a nice big double compost bin to go here, but I'll bring you back to that later. And I've just managed to finish making some space up this side here. I've just managed to pull all the phoenix well out of the way, because obviously anybody who knows them, they're full of spikes and lovely horrible nasty things. But yep, so I've got some I've bought myself some poles, I've got some wire, and up here I'm going to be putting my raspberry canes are going to go up, they'll go in there, and then very, very shortly I'm going to put my blackberries down this side. There's not a lot I can do on this side too much. It's really quite steeply away at the sides of the ferns there, so just to this side of that's where I'm going to keep an area clear, and very easy to work around blackberries. I'm going to put my blackberry in there with the runners, so I'll have a 12-foot run there. You need at least 6-8 foot either side of your crown, and that lets you, the way I like to do it is I'll run off 1 year, I'll tie 1 year's in at one side, and then the following year that's where you get your fruit, but then the new growth the following year I'll tie up the other side. So then after 2 years you have basically a full fence that you're constantly rotating around each side to get the best fruiting off it. So that's going to do that. I'll show you that shortly, and then show you what I'm down here. Give a bit of a show of the planters. As you can see, this is the first one I have finished is here. And now what I've done here is obviously, as you can see, I've put the strawberries in. Keep them on a little bit of a mound here, so as you can see they're just a little bit higher. Helps to stop they don't like to get the crowns wet, and they'll put a good root system down. I've actually sown, oh, they're actually coming through. You can just see the little seedlings as I've got some radishes pushing the way through. So anyway, we'll let them push them in a little bit. Give them a bit more cover. I think when I sprinkle them in, they came out a little bit quick. So they're a bit of cover over the top. It'll just help to a little bit of weight on the top. That's the whole point of covering the seeds, is a little bit of weight on the top helps to keep the seed in place while it pushes its roots down. There's even some growing all over the place here. So anyway, I'll keep that. So I've got some radishes in these 2 spots. However, in some of the others I've got some lettuce, which I've got as a little crop of lettuce, a little tray of lettuce. So they're in there. However, I've still got a couple of gaps. There's a gap here and here. Now I'm going to put either some of the lettuce crops or possibly some chives in there. This is a good quality potting compost in here. This was a coarse-grained potting compost, but that's got plenty of food, and the strawberries like that, and so that's going to allow me to hopefully get some nice strawberries and a good cash crop out of that, with the other things in between while they're growing, because they're much slower growing. That's the whole point. If you've got something slower growing, you can grow something a bit quicker in between. Now here's the second one I've just finished, and I've just started sort of spacing the plants out and deciding what I'm going to put here. This is going to be for herbs. Now I have some mint, but I always grow mint separate. Although I've only just picked that plant up and I've potted it up. I'll show you what I like when I like to pot them up. But yep, so that's gone into its first bigger pot. Eventually that'll end up almost in a bucket. And we have oregano, sage, with curly parsley and rosemary. They're the main ones that are going in here. Now at the front here we have rocket, so I'll be putting rocket in between each of the herbs. At the back some perpetual spinach, and then right at the front on here, the front of these herbs, that's where I've got some more small little lettuce plants which can go in quite quickly. So this will fill up really quite quickly. Now what I would suggest when it comes to potting up is the following. What I would say is when you first get the plants, don't be in a rush to put them out, and don't be in a rush to necessarily pot them up, because you need to find out how they actually look when you get them from the garden centre. So when you get your plant, try and support the actual plant just between the fingers. You squeeze it, a bit of a tap, and she'll pop out. And then what you're looking for, I'm hoping this shows up, is all these little roots. And when you get into the point where you've got all these little roots coming through, and then you can just see them starting to curl a little at the bottom. If you get a lot of a curl, that's called pot bound. But that's what you're looking for. That's when she's ready to either pot up or put out. So that's the sort of thing when I've waited for each of these. I haven't just rushed home with them and put them out. I've just kept them into a nice medium, and then as you can see here, now if you ever do get one and you've got a big swirl of roots, which they tend to make, it's quite easy just to tease them very, very gently like that, and then they're ready to pop in. And then all I do, I'll do the first one here, which should be, I'll just move this out of the way actually so you get a better view. Now I'll pick the parsley because these are going to be the permanent ones. Now what I've got here is basically just some compost. I'm still having to buy everything in, but you don't need it too rich when you're putting herbs and things in, because if you do, you just get lots of straggly growth. However, I have put a handful of fish blood and bone in here. Now when you plant them, try and get them to the same height as you had them in the pot. Sprinkle it around, just gently push them in. Make sure you've got them nicely all the way around. And then don't forget your label. Even if you know what the actual thing is, it's sometimes nice to know the varieties that you're growing. And then basically that would be it, all of those. And then it would just be a watering of them in. Now just as an extra couple of little things, is one of the things I say when I pot up, hopefully you can see in here, I don't fill the pots right to the top. I always leave a bit of a lip. Makes life so much easier when it comes to watering them. It's just not needed. Why the garden centre? I mean, whether it's just because it's quicker and easier, fill them right to the top, I don't know. But the amount of times I have got seedlings and other things, and I found, you know, they look very moist, but when you actually get them out of the pot, the bottom third might be as often dried. But then the problem with that is the plant won't put roots into that. So anyway, I leave plenty of gaps so I know that they've had a good watering. And then don't forget, when you are planting up, although I've got quite a lot of stuff in here, the plan will be a lot of these will be coming out relatively quickly compared to the herbs. And then as the herbs grow, and what I've done is because my sun will come from behind the camera towards me here, so I put the smaller, more covering type herbs to the front, gradually going back towards, you know, the rosemary and the sort of like, you know, your parsley will grow much bigger, so then you're not casting shadows because they like the sun. So that's something to think about with your planting. And also, like I say, when you've got whatever it is that you have in here, whatever the planting medium is, really, although that's when it's open and it's lovely and retains moisture and all that kind of stuff, it's great. But at the end of the day, that's actually just the medium for the roots. So it's very important that the more you put in, that you feed. So you've got to feed anyway, but if you've got a lot in there, you're going to restrict the root growth, so they're going to be more reliant on a smaller area, and therefore they're going to want more food. So that's a good thing to remember. But what you don't want is you don't want leggy growth. So by potting them up slowly, waiting until you can see those roots before you pot them up, and then letting those roots develop before you get on, what you'll get is you will get the smaller, the bushier plants, and they look nice and strong and healthy. And as you can see here, rather than being sort of like tall and leggy and spindly little roots going out and not ever developing a root system. So it just helps to maintain that a little bit. So there we go, let's have it. Next job. And then, as I said, last job, don't forget to give them a good drink, because what this does, it helps to wash the little particles of the compost and soil around the roots, so you don't get any air spaces. Air spaces are no good, the roots won't go into them. So yeah, give them a good drink. Finally getting round to putting my first soft fruit in, so I'm just working on my first one here, which is going to be my blackberry crown. And as you can see here, she's ready to go in. I've actually worked a piece of ground approximately 3 feet square, dug in about 20 odd litres of composting material, a good handful of fish blood and bone. I'll mix that in before I put the plant in. So obviously you don't want it like this, it'll burn the roots, so I'll give that a good mix in all round like that. Get a good sized hole. Oh, that was a worm, not a cutworm I just saw. So yeah, that's nice root size. I'm going to try and put the crown right at the very top, that way I can get some mulch in there. This is quite good soil actually. And then what I do is I like to give it a good drink into the hole initially. So there's a good few litres will go into the hole there. And then obviously once the plant's in, we'll get that watered in. So yeah, onward. Just a quick interlude here. I'd just like to say I apologise, there's a bit of a dither goes on for the next minute or so. I think the problem is obviously I'm filming this on my camera, holding by hand, and I was a bit knackered after doing all the digging and the humping and the towing with all the bugs, so I think there was a bit of a dither on there, so I do apologise for that, but hope it doesn't spoil some of the information that's on there. Onward! Well, that's the blackberry in, and we have first of my raspberries, second one, and then I've actually got the whole and everything ready for a third. I don't have that one yet. I'm wanting a yellow variety, so and I couldn't decide what to get. So but everything's ready because I'm going to put the posts in now. So as you can see here, I've started to mark out roughly where the posts will go, and same for the blackberries. So yeah, bit of the old lump hammer work now, and whew, oh, I'll tell you what though, I've got to get my wheelbarrow going because carrying mulchings all the way up here in that, it's hard work. But anyway, that's done. It's a good thick layer of mulch on them all. So they're all planted exactly the same, just as I showed you with the blackberry. You know, give a good dig round, 20 or so litres of compost, That's just because it's half a bag. I haven't got any made yet. What I have got, which I showed in the other one for the all the bamboo chippings, I'm going to use this somewhere else because it's just purely bamboo chippings, so I didn't want to use them as a compost, but I'll use them as part of a compost, so they'll probably go into the potato barrels. And I'll crack on, get the wires up, and then I'll bring you back and I'll just show you. All I'm going to do is hammer the posts in until I'm sure they're pretty firm. They don't need to take a lot of weight. There's not going to be a lot of wind even. There's not much, you know, on them. You'd have to drive them in for miles, just, you know, 12-18 inch or so, absolutely, just till they feel solid. And that way they'll take the wires, and you can just keep the wires just firm enough, more to control things than anything else. Again, there's not going to be a lot of weight on it. So I'll bring you back and I'll show you that in a moment. Ooh, there we go, I think it's lunchtime. However, here we are, I'll give you a quick show. I've just finished, so what I've done is I've put my canes in. I've also mulched, given a good mulched area either side of the path, which is going to be where obviously everything grows. And I've done the same up here. So really, I mean, this framework more than anything is just to contain the raspberries. It's possibly even a little bit large. It's a good 18 inches wide. Probably get away with 12, but I thought, oh well, it'll give them a bit of freedom if I can let more, you know, maybe possibly let extra canes grow or whatever, more than, you know, I'll see what it gives me really, I suppose. Just a little tip when you do, if you do put your stakes in, and don't forget they don't need to be really tight. They're never going to hold a lot of weight, and what weight does come down, it's just keeps them in control. But a bit of a tip is when you've got them in, start with your wires at the top. As you can see, that's what I've done here. So this is actually the wire from here. That's just the border boundary line. Because what you'll tend to find is the top one. If you start from the bottom, as you go up, you start to pull them in, and then the very bottom one starts to get a bit wrinkly. Nice even pressure all the way around. So although these don't look the greatest thing in the world, hopefully by the end of the year the vast bulk of it will be covered and you won't even really notice it. Very practical, and then possibly when they do need replacing, then I can look at something a little bit more ornamental, something that makes a bit more time to build maybe, but I think that'll do for now. That'll get my fruit growing for now. And like I say, I do need to find a way of getting a wheelbarrow up here. Oh, lunchtime.